Crack open a Red Bull. We're about to get wild on the show. Puckett is back. We've got Jake. We've got ZP. And since I've seen you guys, I've hosted a Call of Duty major. I've hosted the World Solitaire Championship. I buried a parent. And this week, I went to the hospital twice for a vasectomy and then a tear in the scrotal sac due to a dog attack. So that's how my life has been. Jake, what have you been up to as we get into night shift 27?
I went to my friend's house, played some board games last night. It was wild. It was crazy.
Wild.
And like same level of excitement.
That's not a scrotal tear. You're really missing out, apparently.
Do not let French bulldogs. They look cute, but they're not snuggly after a vasectomy. Let's get into the games tonight and what is happening, because we just witnessed the EU Kings wear their crown. They stumbled a little bit in a game two, which they never do. But Abrahams, after playing with their food, take care of Leviathan. Now we have the Floormen taking on Bird with Clock. And if you heard from John and Liz there, he doesn't want to play Floormen. They just copy their play style, and we're way better at it. They want to play Bird with Clock because Bird with Clock at least has their own unique play style that makes it more challenging for them. That's our NA Challenger matchup, though, and we're going to power through this one. Let's start with our lineups. ZP, who is the better team statistically? Even if John wants to play BWC, who does he have a better chance of facing off against in the final?
Well, last few weeks, it's got to be Floormen. Floormen, they did a few roster changes, and they've kind of put things together for them. They've hit a kind of a trend here where they used to be the old Hydronation cast-offs, right? Where you had Hydration on the team and Zerbzy. Hydration and Zerbzy no longer are the team. They're out there making new Hydronation that maybe one day will play the game. But they brought in Goober and Rocker. And Rocker last week put on a masterclass as Grey Talon. I mean, he looked like the best Grey Talon to ever take the game. It shows on Shiv is there, but for Floormen, they've hit a pretty good stride. And also part of it was that they did a roster change where Lord NM left the team. Sick P now in on the team, or Chick P, as I think he wants to be called. And honestly, as a more supportive player, it worked out really well. So they've been making changes to their roster, and so far it's been Bird with Clock that's fallen behind.
Do you want to call him Chick P or Sick P? Let's decide that right now.
I've been going Chick P. I like Chick P as a name. You know what? I'll give it to him because I've had it up to here with the gamer tags that are like, not only are they not real words, but they have like a specific pronunciation that the person made up. Like, you know what? I don't know how that reads, Chickpea, but I know that word it is a real word, and so I will take it without complaining. Thank you,
Chickpea.
Welcome.
Thank you for being a part of the team. Here we go. On the other side of this one, we've got Bird with Clock. Now, this is the same Bunny with Clock roster. They just didn't feel that the rodents or the rabbits were going to work for them. They're going to the sky. Who is going to lead the way today? Gibbs, Aiden, or someone like Matt on the Ivy?
I honestly think Aiden is a player to really watch on this team. Aiden has really impressed me on an individual mechanical level. He's been playing a lot more of like the pure carry since Pashpop has left this team, but I feel like he has the mechanics to back that up. I think that if this team can find the stability in the chaos, in the aggression that is their trademark, to give Aiden these like high net worth carry games, I think he can perform in those clutch moments with Arctic by his side. I really want to see Bird with Clock show what they can do in this match, but like we've been saying, the Floormen, they don't go down easy.
Now, this is going to be a best of one. You win it, you move on to the championship matchup where the money is on the line. But ZP, you got to take note of what happens in EU, right? And it doesn't always play the same game, but there are similar items in use. And we have some stats from the earlier matchups. What did you see being prioritized by the top players?
I mean, Counterspell is the meta right now. I think, it's not in a vacuum. Dispel Magic, formerly known as Debuff Remover, got nerfed a lot, and people just came to the collective conclusion of, hey, just buy Counterspell, don't get the debuff in the first place. Also, though, some of the other heroes that are being picked nowadays, Counterspell is just really powerful against. I mean, you talk about, you have a Lash in the game. You want to get Counterspell to deal with Lash ult. Well, Nap Time is one of the most brutal ultimates to deal with in the game. If there's a Rem on the other team, you probably want to be grabbing Counterspell. So there's more reasons to grab Counterspell on top of people just kind of realizing, wait, this item is good, we should be picking up more. And that is why it has risen up so much in the ranks.
Slowing X cracking top 10 is pretty interesting, though. I think this is one of those things I'm think is a little bit of, like you said, a knock-on effect of the changes to Debuff Remover. Now Dispel Magic is, hey, there's way fewer players building that item, so the Slowing X is going to stick a lot longer on a lot more characters. Superior duration also I think feels great when you're building it in concert with some of the other active catch items in the spirit category. So last week it was very green heavy, like pretty much top to bottom, and this week at least 2 items from each gun and spirit category are making it into the top 10. So curious to see if NA kind of continues to go in this ganking direction, buying up those slowing hexes, those point blanks for their frontliners, and if they even draft those same sorts of heroes that really want to get into the mix.
When it comes to the heroes, the champions they're going to be playing, we've seen some new ones added to the game. Rem seems to be ZP's favorite. How did EU choose to play out, though, in our opening rounds of the picks and bans? ZP, who is the most popular on the day so far?
So I think the biggest news of the day in terms of priority and a huge jump up is Apollo, where it makes sense. Apollo is a hero that has a really high skill curve. It was going to take a while for players to get the hang of him. And Apollo went from being picked, I think it was either once or twice last week, to being represented in every single game. The other hero that's risen up, because frankly, I just think he is really good all around. I mean, he doesn't do anything bad, does a lot of things well, as Venator, where Venator went from being picked in every game last week, but not a first pick, first ban priority, to getting first banned 3 times. Admittedly, a lot of that was coming in from Abraham's, where they just didn't want to play against the hero, but I actually think Ven is good enough to warrant that level of focus.
Celeste not getting a chance to play. We saw GT pulled out by Dmov, who earned our MVP award. Who do you think is going to be our top 2 picks, though, in NA, Jake? If we're looking at competitive teams, who do you got to prioritize early on?
I do think Abrams and Shiv, I think, stay in this really crucial category in the frontliner role. But now they're competing with more options with stuff like Silver and Billy as well, right? Competing for that spot. One thing that jumps out to me, though, from this pick priority is just the Paradox, right? So Paradox played in all 4 games. And there's a few other pick heroes, picked throughout the different drafts, but they're all, at a 1 or 2 games at the most playtime. And so that to me says that Paradox is in a much higher tier. I wonder if she won't go a little bit earlier in NA, because teams start to feel like, hey, we really want Paradox. Like some players like Goober has shown a real willingness to pick the Holiday, even a prio over Paradox. But in EU, it's definitely not the case, right? There's clearly a difference in these pick heroes for the team's priority.
Now, I've been away from the night shift for a minute. Back when I was here, though, Viscus was always in play. Infernus was just getting phased out. Now I feel like I haven't seen any Viscus. So what is the Goobster play on now, ZP?
Well, he's become the Holiday guy. Goober has gone on his movement arc where it's like, okay, I'm not playing on Viscus. I don't have Puddle Punch movement. I'm just going to learn all the hard movement tech, to the point that Goober's been drawing first bans on Holiday. It is the only team in the region, both NA and EU for that matter, where people decide, yeah, we got to first ban Holiday because Goober is too big of a threat. Also, Goober is really willing to play Celeste, who is kind of like Holiday on crack as far as movement goes. So probably don't want to let Goober play that either, but he will be gunning for Holiday first. Celeste, if available, and barring that, we'll go to Paradox as a third option.
Speaking of players or characters that have not been used, Mo and Krill did not get picked last week. Jake, walk me through the fight, though, tonight, because we're going to have a 1v1 to decide who gets the first advantage in the draft. Is Mo and Krill back in action? Are they going to be in play from NA?
I think there's a decent chance we see Simone Krill play. I mean, we saw 2 games in EU this week for the big man and of course the little rider. But I wonder, given the preference for a player like Goober to Holiday, I think that probably reduces your Mo and Krill pick, because often it is going to be on that role. I think we even heard that from Saya, right? Was it on the Graveyard Shift saying, hey, look, it makes Goober vulnerable that he's so focused on characters like Holiday. So for me, I think this is a real area for Floormen to be able to step up. If they can really confidently take something like the Paradox, I think that will help them when it comes to this drafting phase. As good as Goober might be on the Holiday, I feel like having to pick it first doesn't feel great. This is the raw power of the hero. To me, no matter how good you are at it, I'm not fully convinced by that in the draft phase.
ZP, we just saw Matt give AVG the hands. He is going to earn the honors for Bird with Clock. Do you want to be the first one to pick, or do you give that to your opponent knowing you get then picks 2 and 3 back to back?
I think right now you can make arguments either way, but I think first pick has been more of the prio. Like we saw Abrahams when they lost, they decided, yeah, give us first pick, because if you go first pick, you can go for Silver, who win rate wise looked a lot better in EU today than she did before. Yes. There was kind of this idea of pick Silver, lose game. Well, Silver, last 2 games in EU certainly bucked that trend, but Floormen in this case end up with first pick. So Bird with Clock, they decide to defer. So it's never an exact science. You can make good arguments either way.
First ban comes in. Jake, you got a prediction?
Honestly, maybe it's Celeste or Apollo. These characters have been top tier. Instead, they go with Silver. I mean, the new heroes that have come into Deadlock have pretty quickly risen to the top in terms of the pick priority, right? Without really any, I guess Graves is the exception, the one character that's not really seeing much top level play. But the other 5 are considered like really top tier meta picks. So I wouldn't be surprised to see both bans targeted on them. And yeah, so Celeste and Silver both taken out. For Floormen, they're going to have to find something else here on the front line. I mean, my first thought is just something very conventional, like a Shiv, Abrams, or Billy here as the opener.
How long until Celeste just gets removed from the game? I feel like she hasn't been able to be played on night shift. And Shiv is the first one locked in. Great prediction there. ZP, what do you expect to see it followed up by?
Okay, so for Bird with Clock, if they really wanted to play against Goober, they can pick Holiday top 2, but that feels really bad. I think you secure your power picks here first, and one of those 2 picks almost certainly going to be Abrams. Abrams Billy is like the safe money. You secure your front line. Those are just the most premium picks. The other option you can do here too, though, Paradox is 100% win rate on the day. I think you could really justify an early Paradox pick here and go around the front line. Even if you don't get a Billy, get something like a Geist.
What about a Page either here? Because we've seen how good the Abrams Page lane is. It looks insane. And they do just go for the straightforward premiums. I think that does potentially yield the Page now to Floormen, who likely could want it in this scenario. The key question for me is, are Floormen going to contest the Paradox pick? Like, we know Goober likes a Holiday a lot, but I totally agree with you, ZP. I think not contesting Paradox is kind of a mistake just in terms of where the balance is right now.
Venator makes it in. The player you called out, ZP, as we were taking a look at the EU numbers. Not a lot of times that he made it through. He has banned 3 of the 4 games. We get a chance to see him here for Floormen. What does he do for anyone new to Deadlock after the new players have been added in?
I mean, Ven clears jungle really quickly. He has a lot of burst potential. It's a hero that you have to respect in close quarters as much of an Abrams, and with his ability to just put you in a bad spot and kill you. Traps are one of the most aggravating things in the game, especially in late game team fights where you hit one and you just die. And on top of it, his ult Ira Domini gives you ridiculous long-range burst potential. So he's like one of the few heroes in the game that is a threat super close up, super long range, and has like gimmicky outplay options. He's very strong right now.
So we got some new characters and then some old favorites. Paradox, of course, picked by Taz in all 3 of the games for Abrahams in the last matchup. On the other side, Ivy is getting picked again. Why is this character getting prioritized, Jake?
Ivy, I think, is kind of considered one of the top supports, especially in NA. I think the teams really like what she can offer, which is she has a good amount of healing and a very strong save in the ulti. But ultimately, even though she just can mostly be played supportively, right, and has a lot of ways to share heals and keep the team up, she also has a lot of fighting potential. Like great at clearing waves, great at like adding some damage on and being a real threat herself. Where you look at your Rems and your Pages, they offer some very unique, powerful tools. But in the end of the day, they're not really going to be able to take a 1v1 at almost any phase of the game, where Ivy, I think, is not quite so vulnerable, right? Even if you run a smaller numbers engagement, you'd almost rather have the Ivy fighting by your side than any of the other options.
Now, I was looking at the low-key W lineup. They had Shiv, Billy, Moen, Krill, Warden, Lash, Apollo. They went thick and meaty. How does that compare to what you see right now for Bird with Clock, CP?
And for Bird with Clock, I memean, your front line, you're still pretty happy with Abrams, Billy, and you get Ivy for more support. They have the option to go, well, at this point, most of the frontliners are gone. Like, Bird with the Clock, they're looking here probably for a playmaker option at this point, likely Bebop or, Holiday. I mean, you can still get Holiday late. It's still a perfectly fine pick. And then beyond that, something on the Mouse 1 level, because you don't play Ivy in that role anymore. So, honestly, I'm looking at Bird with the Clock. I'm thinking, like, they could go Warden. They could go Pocket.
I agree. I think they need the gun carry.
Oh, Mirage.
It's going to be Mirage this time. I'm curious if why it wouldn't be a Pocket right now. Pocket has not been played very much at all these days, but I think Affliction is actually really nice here. I think it's really annoying for Shiv, obviously, but also he has so much mobility that something like, Venator's ability to melee you down doesn't seem that reasonable. Instead, though, they're going to grab the Bebop, which they could have been worried about a potential final pick Bebop for Floormen as something that kind of deals with Lash and gives him some trouble. And it is I think maybe one of the next best pick heroes behind Paradox, at least what we're seeing in the meta right now. I'm glad to see Floormen, though, actually going for the Paradox. And they grabbed the Kelvin, which has been contested a lot in melee creeps matches. Teams have not been letting Saya get his hands on Kelvin. But honestly, ZP, when's the last time we saw Kelvin in Night Shift? It feels like it's been months.
It's been a long time because anytime you go against melee creeps, you ban it from Saya. Everyone gives the respect ban in the mid-stage ban, so Saya never gets to play Kelvin unless they pick it super early. In this case, though, Floormen might have said, look, we keep losing to melee creeps because we're not willing to pick the Kelvin, and we feel like we always have to mid-stage ban it. What if we learn to pick it, especially when other supportive options are off the table? But the interesting thing to me for NA is if this were EU, Floormen would go Page. It is NA particular that has now hit the point where they value Kelvin over Page more often than not.
We've seen it be a comfort pick for what feels like a year. Jake, as you take a look at both lineups, who do you grade as the higher draft?
I think this Kelvin pick is actually really smart from Floormen because you look at their late game carry potential. It's the Venator, it's the Geist, it's, Shiv and Apollo, maybe a little bit more on the off carry role. But there's a lot of like close range brawling heroes that want to get on top of you. Even when it comes to like the high farm characters, they really want to scramble in close range. Where Bird with Clock, a lot is riding on the Mirage, who isn't going to be in that Kelvin dome. He's going to be in the back. He's going to be poking from range. But that means if you can dome, you can isolate somebody like Billy or Abrams, and they're going to have a few seconds where they have to fend for themselves. Mirage is just not really going to be able to implicate or add much into that team fight unless you're teleporting into the dome, which I think is maybe a little bit too crazy to be a reasonable or consistent counter. So I think the Kelvin pick is really smart. The question is, can you get towards that late stage of the game? And also, can you deal with the aggression that Bird with Clock is known to throw out? They have a lot of high-paced tools from Abrams to Bebop to Billy and Lash and Ivy. Like, everyone but Mirage is going to run at you, and if Mirage just gets a free game, you could find yourself in real trouble.
As this game kicks off, quick reminder, use !donate to increase the prize pool. Big thank you to all of the tips and the new donations. The donations go directly into the prize pool, which will split between EU and NA. On the mic, it's ZP and Jake.
And already, Jake, as we look to Pasha, it's like, all right, let's start hyping up the vendor. It's like, well, you've taken a bit of poke damage, but that's fine. You got the first Crystaller. I love the tech that you see there. That's easy to miss. Literally before the healing creep goes down, Pashi goes to Goober and says, hey, get out of here. I want the full heal. That's the type of coordination you're not going to get in your pub games, but you do get in your comp games.
I will say this is something that people really should be thinking to do more in their comp games, because if you recognize you don't need the heal, don't share it with your ally who actually does need it, or vice versa, right? So able to get a lot more efficiency there. That being said, it's kind of a scary lane to go against, right? That you don't have much counter pressure to deal with the Mirage, and if you do step up on the Venator in this lane, you're liable to get Bebop hooked. So this one, a little bit scary. I feel like Cool Cheese has a lot of opportunity to open this game up in the early game and kind of set the tone if he's able to find some picks. It'll be usually a couple levels till he skills that hook, but with Mirage early lane pressure, it could be a little bit awkward for the Floormen players.
On the other hand, I will say this, like, you can play Ven in middle, and I guess the reason here is that they want to, like, farm the Ven the way you would farm a Warden, which is why Pashi is on the hero. But I do love the options that Ven has for pressure in the side lanes. Like, you have, I think, way more ability to get good gut shot plays just by the nature of how, like, the left and right lanes play relative to the mid lane. So you're losing out on some of Venator's ability there, but again, I think based on who's playing it, Pashi is playing Venator 100% is just like, this is my Warden replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really fits his style to be not the carry only, rather, but also somebody who's going to show up to these fights and play that tempo. In this game, I suspect it'll be League, who I think is going to be being on the little bit greedier side on the Geist and really playing to secure that late game. And we talked about this, like Bird with Clock putting the trust into Aiden to carry the game. I mean, Mirage is that hero, right? Mirage is the hero you pick when you really want to put a clock on the game and force the opponent to have to respond to you and put some pressure down. I personally, I think Mirage probably the strongest of the ultra late game carries right now. As we see a bit of a lane freeze here on the side lane. Ivy and Billy just want to deny as many souls as they can, but luckily for Shiv and Apollo, it's pushing into them anyway.
Also, Goober. NA is usually a little bit more on the early gank train, and Goober may be committing here on the left side. If nothing else, he's giving farm to Pashi in middle, which is the main reason why he's doing a lot of the farming or roaming. But yeah, the Carbine is out, and here comes the attempt from Goober. Looking, shoots Ivy in the back. I don't know if too much is going to come here, but it's going to give a bit of a lane tempo advantage to left lane as they get serious damage. on
yeah, no risk of a kill there, but Poshpop nearly died in mid. I mean, got down to a sliver of HP, has a little bit of health now because he got a full heal creep, but he was in real trouble. And now League goes down. Chickpea tried to put some counter aggression on, but it just wasn't enough. And Bird Clock was still able to finish that one.
So this is a conventional esports tip, but one to remind your players, you should charge your peripherals before getting into a best of one match. Just an idea, but usually it's a good idea.
Good suggestion. Good suggestion. We'll take it under advisement. I'll let you know how it shakes out with upper management.
Arctic is back. Didn't die, but maybe he didn't.
Kelvin does not have hands like that. Not ready to take the 2v1 against Abrams Lash in the lane.
I mean, Kelvin's lane ability in general nowadays is pretty rough. It was the number one area that his power budget got hit to bring him down from the ultimate first pick, first ban for every game in every region. Is that his laning is just not the strength that it used to be. Goober leaving the mid lane, it pays its price here. Jake, is finally Poshpop goes down, and a lot of that is the HP penalty he paid before, but down and dirty, parry onto Tanner, AVG, punish in on the left.
Yeah, Tanner was in a tough spot there, just standing in that Ivy bog, trying to fight it out with the help of the support tools, but ultimately your HP is dropping. You got to take a risk and go for that melee, and Rebuttal Hunt Shiv is a great buy at this lane.
Back taking a look at middle where, again, Floormen had Goober roaming a little bit more. Poshy gets a bit punished for it. Not super behind in lane here, all things considered. But now, Shiv under a bit of danger here on the left-hand side. Tries to dodge out of the kudzu, ends up falling, so Floormen getting punished again.
Apollo got parried under tower as well there. I saw him, I believe, stunned to that. So a really nice dive here from Billy. They ran right back into the lead in this side lane. Aiden, though, is getting the dream start from Mirage. I mean, a couple early kills on Mirage is way more than you can expect. He's got a life buff as well. The Iridomity is slamming. Cool Cheese goes down. The execute is good, but here comes the ulti from Lash, looking for some counter pressure, some punish on this mid lane. It looks like more of the same. Kills being fed straight to Aiden the Destroyer, and that's exactly what Mirage wants to start this game off. He's healthy. He's got a life buff. He's got kills fed to him non-stop. It's going to still be a long time before he's truly online on Mirage, but this is a hell of a jump start.
It's still a nice feeling as Mirage where you're actually able to take fights early on because your early game went really well, as opposed to just being like, guys, I don't have Infuser yet, or not Infuser, but I don't have Inhibitor yet. I don't have Ricochet. Like, I'm just gonna chill, be cool. I'll talk to you when I'm at 35k. You actually can get active as Mirage if you have a lane as good as what Aiden has had here so far. So yeah, it's a very, very good omen to start the game.
Exactly what you need. Still, game's virtually a dead heat. These trades have not been decisive for one team or another. Slight edges on a couple players. Apollo, Rocker really struggling. Only player without the ultimate available just yet. Looks like Goober trying to start a fight off. Can't find the swap just yet. Doesn't want to commit onto a healthy Bebop.
Rocker on Apollo makes sense. If you think about hero pools, whose hero pool is actually oddly similar to Rocker? Demob. But, okay. A little bit of a skirmish here in middle. Just Bebop sending the bomb and walking away. Middle lane been the most active by far, and I think Goober wanted to do more roaming in this game, Jake, but the pressure on the Pasha has kind of grounded him a bit.
Yeah, forced to stick around and secure that Venator's early game. Still soul-wise, Venator has gotten right back into it. I mean, yeah, he took a death, but it's not the end of the world, right? In the end, yeah, you might take some risks when it comes to getting that solo farm, but it could be well worth it, right? If it pays off in terms of getting some of those farming items up a little bit quicker. You haven't really lost much Guardian HP. So in the end, I don't think there really has been much of a punish. Both carries getting the start they're hoping for. Now a swap onto Abrams, but he's got that ulti out. Gonna need a little bit of extra damage to finish this one off, and Geist would love to get that kill secured. Arctic, though, healing up with the Abrams passive, and I mean, one of the tankiest characters, most difficult ganks in the game, gets out.
Get to throw a little bit more pressure onto Lash, but, while this is all going down, get pressure onto the Guardian, which League more than willing to finish off. So, Floormen on a macro level, eking out small advantages as we're 2 minutes away from first earning buffs, but on the rotation now, where's Cool Cheese looking to go? Cool Cheese, of course, who pretty much always for Bird with Clock is on your playmaker heroes. Very rare to see him on anything other than a Bebop, Holiday, or Paradox. Went through a phase where it's almost always Paradox, but now a little bit more Bebop. Lands the hook here on the Pashy. We'll see if the damage there is finish off, as we have more members of Floormen rotating in.
Paji's healthy, and he's on his own side of the map. He's standing to fight here. Now it's Aiden running for the hills. Itali Lasan looking for some kills from Rocker. Iradomini is out. He's looking for an execute, but out of shots, the bomb explodes, and he's got to run for it. Seems like the team's cover is going to be enough to get him out of trouble. And now Apollo finds himself in exactly the spot he wants to be. Some low enemy players on the hunt down. And look at this aggressive buy, man. Torment pulls extra spirit. He is all damage at this point in the game. And that's a crazy early timing for the spirit power spike. Like, yes, the counter play on you is going to be brutal, but I kind of love this build for Apollo since, hey, in the end, all you're going to do is jump in, burst a kill, and get out anyway. I mean, why not? Just be pure damage. Although, as I say that, don't necessarily try this at home.
Yeah, I was just like, guys, join Jake's ranked games. Copy the Apollo build that Rockers do. It's like, no.
Do not buy green items. Green items are for the weak.
Green items are for people who don't hit their riposte and don't use disengaging sigil in a proper way. You know, if you're a rocker, though,
I would never
who
make
needs these crutches?
Exactly. Just some harassment from the Paradox here. Doesn't want to blow the swap. Wants to save it for threatening a potential tower siege. Billy's a very tough kill in this lane. Tanner up to a very comfortable start here. 7.5 thousand souls there. Some more players, though, coming to this yellow lane, and we could see a potential siege. Bebop's in the neighborhood. For now, the initiators just kind of harassing one another on the box runs in the jungle.
20 seconds till buffs and already being contested. Swap now over on the Cool Cheese, who just gets melted down, which is a weird phrase to say when you're getting hit by an ice beam, but it is the reality, Jake.
Super hot fire. As Aiden, holding onto this Walker by the skin of his teeth, has very little health to work with. But Geist similarly is low, and sieging on that level of HP, scary even for somebody like Geist. The league's continuing to put on that macro pressure. Goes a big slam from Lash, takes a nice bite out of Kelvin's HP, forces a defensive dome, but look, players inside, waiting around the corners, and now springing the trap here. Billy, though, hold on. He's continuing this fight. Itali Lasan only hits onto the Ivy, which isn't going to matter much, but here comes the flawless advance. Should be enough to poke down Cool Cheese on the Bebop, and it's good for that. Pashipop, though, without the shelter of the Kelvin Dome, finds himself in real trouble. Rocker starting to feel a little bit of the pain of that lack of green items. It gets brawled down, but the executions start coming now. ABG finds one. Lash ult sends two. Far away. Looks like Lash wants to just disengage from this one. Bird with Clock so far, it's a winning one for, or actually, I think just 2 for 2, rather, with Bebop also dying and coming back to the fight.
Kind of a wash overall. Floormen started out with urn control, turns into a fight, 2 for 2, and Floormen leave with the urn. So, you know, Floormen get to feel happy about staying with the urn. The question always is that I feel like you have the most flexibility as a team to either contest urn or go for other objectives on first urn. So I'm curious where Bird with Clock is going to play this. Right now, it looks more like they just want to invest on a left side push.
Apollo tangoing with Abrams. Abrams does not have much HP to work with. Thinks better of that kind of a fight, but Lee ends up going down. Hold on the sideline with a big rotation in. You need some counter kills here. Floormen, they do find one. Are they going to be able to press further for more damage? It seems like that left side tier 1 Guardian, even at full HP, should be an easy grab for this level of assembled players.
And Bird with Clock, they end up changing their game plan. You know, they were a little bit overloaded on left. Now they give up left in the Guardian. So they're losing a Guardian while also losing urn control. But it's a very slow play on the urn where you look at Goober, his entire role the last 30 seconds has just been, you know, setting an AFK macro to go up and down repeatedly in one spot on mid lane and be like, guys, let me know when I can come back to my PC and we can actually run this thing.
I will say the two teams look very evenly matched so far in this game, right? Like every time one team finds some advantage on one side of the map, the other team is charging some kind of price on the opposite side. So a few thousand soul lead, but I just don't think it makes much of a difference yet for the Floormen. Mid boss spawning, a potential urn dunk. We could see one of the more pronounced team fights of the game so far. ABG soloing on the left side versus 3, but Billy wants to come over and match that urn drop. It might be too little too late, though. There's a lot of Floormen players ready to contest this drop, and it looks like a pretty free urn to me.
Turns into a bit of Walker damage on mid and a left Guardian. Now, what I wonder here is, does Arctic get out alive? Arctic is getting actually a lot of damage on mid Guardian. Like, you would be shocked to see just how much unattended Abrams can do, but
since the pressure
coming on in,
who did exact same thing in the EU game. Just running it down on Abrams, using the value of that charge as an escape tool. Here comes the Ivy's escape tool, making sure Mirage gets out of trouble. I don't know how necessary that was, but I guess it does secure any kind of an issue. League has found himself all alone under the pressure of multiple gankers. The response comes in, but it's a little too late, and I don't even know if it's going to be enough to save this tower. Kelvin, I don't know that he really wants to take a continued fight here.
I kind of like where Bird with Clock put themselves in that spot where you're giving up only first turn and getting half the HP on Mid-Walker especially, and the Guardian. I actually think that's a worthwhile trade given how valuable Mid-Walker is and how hard it can be to take down at times. I mean, you get half HP off it. We've seen games where you have rejuve crystals and you end up going through most of them to take down Mid-Walker on an actual team v team push. So if you can get sneaky value on Mid-Walker early in the game for a relatively minimal cost, I actually think it's generally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, that much HP damage on the Walker, it means a lot, right? It means that at some future point, right, you have the opportunity to just kind of send it down on the Mid-Walker, and even if the enemy team's assembled there to defend, the Walker can just die so fast that it doesn't end up mattering for the team fight. League has his swap this time, in a bit of a compromised position though, and Billy is able to at least steal that center stack, as well as putting a lot of pressure on League and probably sending him back to base for a reset.
Yeah, if you're League, you don't want to do the pub guys thing. Sometimes be like, oh, my HP is low. Who needs base? I'll just look for swap. It's like, yeah, no. It's like, actually, just get your health back. Yeah, use it in a bigger fight. Or at least in League
snatch out doubles from under the nose of Bird with Clock. They want to get some kind of a punishment on this, but I think it's too little too late. And with guys playing in front of the Mid-Walker, it's going to be a hard push, but here comes Billy and Ivy from the side, capitalizing on that early advantage that Abrams created, and here comes Walker kill. Swap goes a little bit wide, and Billy and Ivy are out of there, man. So great little macro play from Bird with Clock, finding some kind of punish for the double steal and equalizing the soul state in this game.
That's so much different if Goober's swap is just like 2 millimeters to the left in terms of how that pans out. Like it's probably a kill. So that miss is actually gigantic. Earn, meanwhile, going to be picked up by BWC. We'll see how clean the disengage is. Not clean at all so far. Arctic with the punish on the cool cheese. And yes, Arctic has gone away, but it comes at a cost. And I mean, the cost may be severe here. Floormen, they're well set up now, Jake, for a big push on the right-hand side Walker. They do have to respect Mott, though, who Death Slam is at the ready.
Do you? Because Frozen Shelter is so powerful right here. Billy goes in for a play, tries to drag them under Walker, but you're just in a 1v4, isolated by the Frozen Shelter. Nothing Matt can do. Just watching and waiting from outside, and that's going to turn into a Walker take. So Chickpea showing some of the value of this Kelvin pick in that game, forcing what would have been, without Kelvin or with any other character in the game, frankly, a pretty difficult push. They do give up an earn for it. So in the end, souls-wise, I think it's a decent trade, since you do get a kill on top of that Walker take for the Floormen, but the earn does mitigate some of the losses.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, Walker for earn on the 15-minute earn, you'd prefer to be on the Walker side just purely because you may not even have a flex slot at that point, and, you know, getting the Walker ensures that you don't run into weirdness where it's a little bit later in the game, all 3 Walkers are up, and your item build is starting to get impacted. And that's even before you're talking about, like, just opening up the map in general. But it's about as even gets, which is kind of bad for Floormen, Jake, because, you know, we talked about earlier in the game, there's a timer on the game anytime you're up against the Mirage, and Aiden is the death clock for Floormen.
I think it's true to an extent. However, I'm a little worried for Bird with Clock, because as strong as Mirage is in the late game, I think the rest of the team isn't going to scale that well. I think they've committed a lot of early game alongside the Mirage, where I don't think a late game is going to be like automatic domination.
Arctic in a world of hurt, getting hit by multiple angles, and okay, 3-man gank from Floormen. Now moving forward, Mid Guardian actually never went down for Bird with Clock, but that may be changing here, Jake, very, very soon. Now, Matt is rotated in, Death Slam at the ready, so it's still something that Floormen have to respect. And in fact, with the full BWC rotation in the middle, it's Floormen a bit on the retreat now. As you take a look at Aiden, Aiden feels pretty farmed up and decides, yeah, this is a fight I can take.
I think he feels a lot of pressure to find something here. They brought so many players engagement, they need to find the kills. Talilosan hits a lot of players in this underground, but it just doesn't seem like quite enough for the kill. There's the riposte to slow things down. And in the end, Bird with Clock committing heavy players to the mid fight. So far, it's a 2-for-1 in their favor. Pashibab is side farming the entire time. Here comes Billy in a really rough spot fighting up with Kelvin. Here comes the Dome as well. Pashibab fighting inside the Dome. This is his dream scenario. So much damage on the Venator in these close range engagements. And now Mirage caught in the exact fight he doesn't want to find himself in. Has to go for the parry against Kelvin, but it's just not enough. Cannot stand toe-to-toe with Pashi inside the shelter.
The crazy thing about Venator is just the amount of positional dominance he gives you. There are places in the map, a lot of them, that if you fight Ven at, you will lose. And okay, 18-minute mid-boss. On one hand, Aiden is down for 20 seconds. On the other hand, you got Death Slam up. You don't have Frozen Shelter here, Jake. This is... We'll see. They might not be able to get there in time.
Very strong mid-boss contesters. You'd think they would go for this, but they feel like they're going to be there a little bit late. Here comes the Stone from Ivy, but it's just too late. Floormen go for the instant last hit, just gambling it, and Bird with Clock were just a few seconds slow on that contest. Now there's time to just run for the hills or maybe try and claim a couple of rejuves away, but this looks like a rout. The Floormen taking this fight in stride. Aiden in desperation here on the Mirage takes one rejuve down, but I mean, he needs to get out of this fight, and I just don't see a way out. There's so many traps, and even caught by the kinetic carbine before the tornado, and it doesn't even move. I don't think I've seen that interaction before.
Really inspired mid-boss call. I think Floormen, they had the proper read that Bird with Clock was going to be a little bit slow off the jump to get there, because in theory, Bird with Clock had enough tools to contest. I mean, Ivy is still one of the best people to throw on a rejuve, but Gibbs was a little bit slow to get there. Matt also, I think, had the heal beforehand, and Chickpea getting caught a little bit by Arctic, so that's going to be one rejuve in the bucket. Actually, pretty good with Bird with Clock. Just being down the Kelvin here gives them more room to hit the map, you know, on top of having one rejuve out. So it does limit some of the pressure Floormen is going to be able to put out here.
Yeah, they don't have to be too scared with the player advantage on the map. That being said, still two more rejuves, and honestly, you'd almost rather lose the Kelvin because it still means you have two rejuves alive for the continued brawl on the map.
Let's take out
Life buff, I believe, is grabbed. Wasn't my B-buff, actually, so maybe by
Paradox.
Billy, one of the frontliners. Some earn control going to be contested here. Opportunity for Billy to maybe come from an off angle, but he doesn't have his ultimate, so it's going to be fighting just straight up into some rejuve advantage. It's a really risky move now. But maybe it'll pay off. AVG's down once. That's the only one rejuve crystal remaining. An advantage earned snatched by the Lash. Time to run for Bird with Clock. If you can just get out of this without losing players, you're going to be feeling very good about the trade. You snatched the rejuve away, but it does cost you Arctic's life. But for advantage earned control and a 1-for-1, honestly, I'm not too mad at this if I'm BWC.
I think Floormen kind of got their ankles broken in that entire exchange, frankly. Like, the way that went down where they lose another Rejuve Crystal, they give up earn control while being the team with Rejuve. That, Jake, that really shouldn't have happened, the way that went down. Now, if you're Floormen, you can contest the earn here, but one Rejuve is not the same level advantage as see Cool Cheese. Lands the hook. But also, it just ends up being a sacrificial. Nothing actually comes out of that aside from Cool Cheese's own death.
Such confident positioning right now from the Floormen. Ivy, nice moves to get past the Shiv without getting dashed on there. That almost would have been certain death for her, but she's forced into a stone form, and there's still a threat on this mid walker. Lash would love to find an ult. It's on the Shiv. Remember, one crystal does still remain. The knockdown's enough to deny some of that follow-up from the Lash. He would love to be able to get in some finishing damage, and actually onto the Shiv, of course, who has also lost the Rejuve. So the two players who've died in this Rejuve had to actually both died twice, Kelvin and the Shiv.
BWC played this really well, Jake. There's no other way of putting it. For losing Rejuve the way they did, for the call being so decisive for Floormen and so flawless, where they even got the follow-up pick on the Aiden. Like, everything went Floormen's way, and the actual handling of the Rejuve was pretty botched when you look at it. I mean, you give up earn control, you end up giving up the earn, which ends up feeding Bird with Clock nearly back to even. You give up some picks that you're not looking to get. It's just sloppiness from Floormen that has kept Bird with Clock in the game.
I feel like Floormen were almost overconfident. They got that Rejuve, and they just felt like, hey, we can do anything on the map. We can just go wherever. And they ended up getting sloppy and getting punished by a Bird with Clock team that just wasn't afraid, right? Like, they respected the Rejuve and understood that, you didn't want to take a full-on team fight against it, but they were not afraid whatsoever. And honestly, I think they may have equalized the lead in the duration of this Rejuve, which is a little bit wild. That being said, Pashibop and League still very comfortable. And in the end, the rest of the team can die. They can take risks. They can take bad fights. It's not that big of a deal. If your heavy late game carries are getting strong, like I don't know if Mirage is going to be able to do this 2-on-1. It's going to require, I think, some big plays from Billy and Abrams to be able to go toe-to-toe, but neither of those characters, I think, loves their matchups into either Venator or Geist, like two carries that kind of love to mix it up with frontliners and take a trade, even in scenarios that typically would favor the brawlers.
Well, Venator in particular, just because we kind of saw what happened in the last major fight, where if you have a Venator on your team, you cannot fight underground. The other team without Ven, you cannot fight the Venator team underground. You cannot chase into these corridors. You can actually use the tighter spaces in the game as cover, where you have traps and you can just be like sneaky and look for opportunities. The thing that Ven does better than any other hero in the game right now is that it really makes you think about where you want to fight, and it is a problem if you don't respect it as the other team.
I'll trap him.
Yeah, absolutely. Geist also has Spellslinger online. I think this is a major power spike for the hero. Glass Cannon on Pop. So Floormen are really hitting their timings hard. Aiden has the Ricochet on Mirage. I think this hero really does want to get that next debuff item after Ricochet to really feel powerful, right? Whether it's Inhib, Silencer, or something of that nature is where I really think Mirage starts to hit their stride. But man, League on 32K is a menace here. Like, I don't know that you can fight the guy straight up. Like, Bird with Clock have found fight wins, right? They've found some pickoffs, but they've never been able to go toe-to-toe with Geist here, honestly, since the game began. Like, this has been a pretty free game for League. Here comes a catch into mid. Nice counterspell, though. Denies the swap from Goober. That would have been certain death for Tanner.
Floormen backing off after the attempt. Also, it just kind of flashed up there, but you know, there's multiple ways that you can expect to see a Bebop get played, and Cool Cheese is on the full-on Martyr Bebop build right now, which is 0-9, lowest farm in the game. What is your purpose? I exist to get hooks, and if I live after, all the better. And apply. Thank you so much. The 450 viewer raid coming on in. Just like Arctic with the seismic slam.
He just hit the hook on one of the most farmed players. Pashibop caught out. And the 18K Bebop gets his revenge. A nice bag donation from Pashibop to the Abrams. And you don't have to be rich on the Bebop to make those plays.
Geist missing.
Little gun buff now up for grabs. Maybe Abrams gonna pick that one up. That's exactly the kill you needed, right? On one of these heavy farming carries. League still maintaining the streak.
Oh,
but that's a long death for Pasha. He's down for
Mid-boss.
60 seconds, and mid-boss is up soon, man. You could gamble this. It's a kind of a risky play. I still think the contest could come in, but for Bird with Clock, that might be one of your best chances in this game.
It forces a 6v5. You know what I'd love here for Bird with Clock? I don't think you commit. I think you make the mid-boss roar, and then you fight Floormen 6v5. I don't think you turn into Rejuve Burger Box. And look,
they're fighting.
AVG turns in early. AVG's about to get absolutely rocked. Goes on in. Bird with Clock, they get the 6-on-5, Jake.
The dome is there, though. Hold on. AVG might be turning this one down. Spencer trying to get what damage he can, but he's silenced. He's caught multiple lockdowns, preventing him from getting Taliosan off. And he's getting run down by Billy. Bird with Clock forced a strong engagement. There's no more frozen shelter. It's up to League now to take over and really carry this team fight, but it might be too little too late. Parries the point from Shiv. They're not enough. They don't find that connection onto Tanner, who navigates the scenario well. Finally, the parry does come in, and hold on, Tanner is taking heavy pressure now. That counter kill from Goober may have just been enough, though. Finding that parry is going to really mitigate this offense. Geist, though, ends up going down. Gibbs and Cool Cheese, the support's running down the carry, and now it's only Pashibop coming back into this. Has that Iradomini loaded, and a lot of enemy low players low, man. Everyone respecting this.
Iradomini, where suddenly the game turns into Counter-Strike. It's like, I'm pulling out the thing that is op-esque, and it's affected the game.
He's got the op. Don't peek. Don't peek.
Well, he had to put the op away finally. The bells stop tolling, and the threat of Iradomini is over. I mean, you still have to be really careful in the pit with Pashi lurking. Pashi is like hybrid melee build right now. Already puts a bit of a hurting here on Cool Cheese. So, I mean, I don't know if you have the ability to damage mid-boss without dying the Pashi, but do you want Chase of Venator here? Okay,
exactly
guys.
where he wants to find himself. He has that
Gut shots back up.
him in here. Getting big damage. Hold on, Mirage is picking down. Has that grenade on him. It's just a man fight in the mid-level. And it looks like Aiden wins this one. Aiden, though, needs to get out with his life to make the value. And it seems like the bodyguard from Arctic is good enough to accomplish that. And this is about as much about Burger Box as we've seen here today on the night shift. Bird of Clock may be getting the better of it, though. Their signature aggression starting to pay off. And what a shoulder charge. Slamming down. No Atali-Losan this time. Oh my god, Bird of Clock are outplaying on so many levels here, and the soul advantage has reached true equal. 50 seconds on the deck for two key players for the Floormen, and Bird with Clock are right back in this game, arguably in the driver's seat now, ZP.
Also, the ridiculous thing about that was Arctic just happening to get the clip on Seismic to bring Rocker along for a ride before the final ride off on the charge. But yeah, I mean, this sort of burger box, I mean, realistically, is Bird the Clock playing really, really well. Mid-boss is still in contest, by the way. So all teams, it's almost turned into an ARAM in middle. But Bird the Clock, they have a 6v4 now, as once more, we see Tanner in, Chain Gang used. It's all up in close quarters, just how Billy likes it. Frozen Shelter is put down, but is it going to be enough to turn the tide in Floormen's favor? Aiden right now is just chunking in on the barrage. All sorts of damage coming in. Ricochet aided. 2 more down for the Floormen, and Mid-boss surely about to go the way of Bird with Clock.
They step into Kelvin's home and they burn his house down, man. The entire team from Bird with Clock was in the dome, and they're saying, I'm not stuck in here with you, League. You're stuck in here with me. The guys just cannot deal with that onslaught of frontliners. In that last fight from Bird with Clock, immaculately played from so many players, navigating all of those threats. Aiden living on a sliver of HP in the carry 1v1, so crucial. And now it's going to be a long delayed third rejuve as well for Bunny with Clock. Like, dream scenario for them. And this is a best of 1 where Floormen are really going to be starting to sweat.
Cool Cheese has given up any hope of having any farm in this game. He knows his role right now as the pure support Bebop.
Hey,
it's like, guys,
it all started with that pick on Depashi Pop, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the beginning. And it doesn't matter what your soul count is on Bebop. You got a couple points in the hook. You can make those plays. You can find your way back into the game. And despite not having the premium pick hero, Cool Cheese has really made a name for himself in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think it's also good when you talk about soul allocation, the way comeback mechanics work in the game, how everything, is. You can make the argument that it is worthwhile to have a hero that, is basically functioning at low souls because it makes the economy in the game a lot more beneficial for the other people on your team. And, for Bebop, if you're able to land hooks, that sometimes is all you need to do. Now Floormen, who had the lead for a lot of this game, Jake, looking for a way back in. And, the thing that sucks for them, too, is that it was right on the threshold, and this is a neutral earn. They don't even get the benefit of an advantage earn.
I don't think they have much hope to do this. I mean, Bird with Clock's comp, triple rejuve, they're going to be very happy to fight around an earn drop. And they're not even really respecting the threat of a dunk. They're full delta split on the map. Everybody's split farming. Everybody's getting camps. Look at Lash's bag, man. Bro's got like a 1500 bag on Lash.
He's the Lash. Yeah, just
He's wealthy. He is a wealthy man here on Lash.
No one said he had to acquire that bag legally, but yeah, Bird with Clock, they've taken advantage of getting a lot of the maps jungle farm, and speaking of getting things here, a little bit of extra poke on the AVG. Not a full commit, mind you, from Bird with Clock, but setting the stage for what could be a future push onto left walker as they get the right walker essentially for free, Jake.
Okay, Billy is kind of huge in this game. Like, Billy and Abrams have both reached this level now where we were talking about how strong Pashibop and League would be on the Venator and the Geist respectively. But now with the plated armor buy, with the Warp Stone, I feel like Billy and Abrams might just be able to run them over even in something like the Kelvin Dome. Now for Floormen, I think they're going to really rely on some precise engagements, being able to find some isolations with that dome. Like, if you end up with 3 or 4 players inside the dome, I don't know that that's going to be a winning position for you anymore. Goober's just holding onto this urn for dear life, soaking he's going to soak his entire health bar of damage here and just try to grab it in the last second. I think this is actually a pretty smart play, because if the urn ever goes back, it is essentially a free dunk for Bird with Clock. And if you can prevent that, it mitigates some of the soul losses here. But is this Walker defense even achievable? Like, if this is Abraham's, I don't think they defend this Walker. Like, I think they would recognize that this is just not the fight to take in a best of 1 with your tournament life on the line.
I don't think they can fight there. I think for Floormen, you have to play for next mid boss effectively. You need to try not to lose the game outright in the next few minutes, and then hope that something breaks your way, that you get a pick off. The dream, of course, would be you get a pick onto Aiden. How you accomplish that, my guess is as good as yours. I mean, Goober with the greatest swap and a big misplay by Bird with Clock, but that's kind of the situation that Floormen find themselves in, where their overall win conditions are not great, and they're hoping for a mistake to be made.
By the way, Aiden has rocketed up the standings. He's just been free farming the map at all times. I mean, if you do start a fight with Floormen here, you're just going to have Mirage TPing right into that, but Aiden is really making the most of the hero here, developing a massive lead. And this is going to be a second set of base guardians dropping. Like, This is, I think, an underrated big deal to get those fast zips online. You're looking for a punish, but with a few seconds left on the rejuve, it could be a rough fight to take. Here comes a massive chain from Billy, pulls 4 in, and the last hold is enormous. 5 players all picked up, slam down the Kelvin Dome. Not nearly enough, and Bird with Clock out of nowhere. Punished Floormen. They stepped up in the last seconds of the rejuve and got clapped down. That could be the game.
The world's least effective frozen dome, given all the damage that preceded it. It was more of a frozen tomb that came up towards the very end. And now, in winning position is Bird with Clock. They were in a terrible spot earlier in the game, and now everything is going their way as Arctic. Final little punch there towards the end, towards League. And Bird with Clock, huge advantage, about to get both shrines. And Jake, even with rejuves down, easily they stay here for first stage patron, and we'll see if they want to sniff for more.
Love the macro as well from Cool Cheese. He's going to dunk and earn. In the meantime, you have 30 seconds, and you just drop the patron at the last second here, clear up all the base guardians. Every single macro advantage you can have in a game of Deadlock right now is in the hands of Bird with Clock. Floormen on the respawn, and I mean, it's a clean back out. There's no way you're getting a single punishment kill for this. So, yeah, I guess if Bird with Clock makes a big mistake in the next 40 seconds before Tanner spawns, they could find themselves in a little bit of trouble. Even a little overabundance maybe of caution from Bebop, taking the safe path on this earn dunk, but doesn't look like there will be a contest of any kind.
With the timer, okay, mid-boss is up in 30 seconds. I actually think for Floormen, it's risky, and there's a lot that can go wrong. I think if you look at the timers, you could argue you pre-set up on mid-boss and try and burst it down before Tanner gets there. It's not
so against this team comp. It's hard. There's a lot of mid baskets. Let's take a look at this. That's beautiful. Any Lash main in the chat right now, living for this moment. Into the 5-man Abrams pin. Goodness gracious, that is the wombo combo of your dreams for Bird with Clock. And desperation for the Floormen. They're going to look for the fight now. Maybe a catch on the Mirage would be the dream start, but the Ivy save. Exactly what the Doctor ordered in that scenario. Here comes the counter pressure. Tanner charging forward. Another big chain. It's deja vu. Another massive lash hold. Are you kidding me? Bird with Clock. They just did it again. Floormen wipe up the face of the earth. A few stragglers on slivers of HP. But surely Bird with Clock have this game in the bag now. Back to back from Tanner and Matt. Have you learned nothing, Floormen?
Jake, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I just never thought it would be on this quick of a timeline. Unbelievable, back-to-back. That wasn't just a replay from the replay ops. That was live in real time as Bird with Clock. Surely they just end the game off that team fight. Floormen let this one slip away, and Bird with Clock get their re-entry into the money match here in North America.
No, that's just a movie. It's a movie, and then the sequel came out just minutes later. That's crazy. They do not do it like that in Hollywood.
And there's the unmute button. Jake getting all kinds of excited. ZP, I was just giggling here to see the smile that I know is on Jake's face during those Lash plays. What was it in the second half? Because at the 28 mark, we saw a huge turnaround. This is where BWC just said, we're going to finish this game. In fact, we are no longer losing it. What was the difference?
It's a death spiral that started with a pick from Cool Cheese. Cool Cheese lands a hook on Pashi Pop, one of the most farmed players for Floormen, which means if you die in that situation, you get a longer spawn timer. Pashi ends up dead for a while. It ends up leading to this long back and forth in middle that ends up being trades that gets Bird with Clock back into the game from these trades, which ends up being an even longer mid fight. And situation after situation keeps evolving where Bird with Clock gets a little back, and eventually it all goes in their favor and ends in what can only be described as just an absolute explosion of 2 back-to-back Billy Lash ult combos, one after the other.
Jake, were you happier watching Lash or when you were winning for the Houston Outlaws?
I gotta say, watching that, thought the second time was like, nah, you can't be real. Honestly, in competitive play, right? When you see the Lash ult, we're expecting like a one-man Lash ult that leads to
maybe
a kill.
3.
You're like, good work, man. Good hustle. Like, that's a nice Lash ult. We found a kill on it. To hit a 5-man into like back-to-back, like they cycled so many combos back-to-back. I mean, that's one of the craziest wombo combos, maybe the single craziest we've ever had on the night shift. So, I mean, just out of control plays there, like just a sick moment. And then for it to happen those are probably the two biggest wombo combos we've ever seen on Night Shift within 60 seconds of one another. So Floormen are going to be reliving that one in their dreams for
Yeah, I already requested the MVP. I was like, just give it to Lash. He deserves it. Let's take a look at all of the highlights. ZP, it was back and forth up into that 28 minutes. In fact, I thought Floormen were leading the way.
Yeah, Floormen were leading the way, and this fight that we're looking here was part of it, where Bird with Clock made the terrible decision of, hey, there's a Venator down in the sewers. We should go fight him. It's like, no, do not fight him. Do not fight Venator in close quarters. And, you know, overall, Floormen maintained tempo, control of the game, but then again, you just had that one moment where Pashi gets picked and things just start going against. And I think this was it right here, the hook that comes on in, and, you know, from this pick on the Pashi, the doom began about 25 minutes into the game.
Yeah,
Jake,
I feel like
people like
before this.
Good.
I was gonna say before this, right? Like when the Rejuve went to Floormen, it looked like a really dire moment in the game. But Bird with Clock, they navigated it with such patience and poise. Like a lot of teams would have really struggled in that moment. And because of that, because of those clean setup plays, surviving the enemy's moment of strength, you get to have this beautiful opportunity for a clapback.
That Abrams damage output, insane. The team fight, one-sided. Bird with Clock doing it not once but twice. Here's a second look.
Oh, another one, man. And honorable mention, though, to Tanner, because the Billy diving in there, pulling everybody into that central position, and arguably what really sets up this combo. But Matt in perfect position to slam him down. The follow-up perfect from Arctic as well. I mean, just the dream scenario. But really, it took the entire team from Bird with Clock to come together for this win. Like Aiden keeping that lead alive, like staying healthy in the farm. Players like Cool Cheese and Gibbs keeping some of those key players alive and finding some of those picks when the moment was darkest. But then, of course, the wombo from Tanner, Arctic, and Matt to clean it up. It just doesn't get better than that.
There's levels to it. ZP user JN7IC7UN1E says Tanner baited out all of those counter spells before the combos. They're setting themselves up for team success. 35 kills to 25 kills with about a 50K net worth difference at the end after trailing by 5K at the mid mark. Zeeps, what did you learn in this fight?
Well, I think it's what we've been seeing more and more of recently, where Lash gets his best opportunities when someone else sets a table for him. And oftentimes it's been Rem in a lot of these games where nap time comes in and it's a win-win. Either you burn a counter spell on nap time and then you get hit by Lash, or you go to sleep from nap time and then you get hit by Lash. But you have a similar dynamic with Chain Gang, where Tanner was in the right spot at the right time, bought Warpstone, was able to use Warpstone to get in people's faces and burn out resources to really let Matt come in and dominate. I will say, looking at the stats here, even though it was in defeat, I do think the early pick of Venator is like super well justified, and Pashi got picked a reasonable amount in the end game and still put out gaudy damage numbers. And the thing with Venator too, a lot of that damage is lethal damage. Like, yeah, he pads a little bit with Consecrating Grenade, but also if he hits you up close, it is lethal damage in melee, and Aero Domini is just absolutely ugly. I mean, you saw, you had 3 people hiding for their life in mid-boss at one point.
Another fall for Apollo today here on Night Shift number 27. We are going to see the battle that makes people like Mox Errett, aka Mox Knox, very excited. They say BWC is a much better battle against the Abrahams, but who from BWC is the player to look out for? Today we think it might be this guy. Let's take a look, Zeeps. It's the Lash. Matt on the Lash. You picked this guy. Why do you go with the 7-2 performance here? 15 assists to go with it.
Look, anytime you have a Lash pick up back-to-back massive death slams, it's hard to go otherwise. I think you could make a real reasonable case for Tanner. You'd be like, well, do you get the death slams without the Chain Gang? No, but you also don't get the death slams without the death slams. So that is also in there. And honestly, pretty solid game by Matt all in all. Even when it wasn't flashy with the death slams, he was getting very solid poke damage, reasonable rotations in the early to mid game, and just what the ideal of what you would want from a Lash throughout most of this game.
All right, we got to hand the mic over to Jake for this moment. Jake, we don't have your face on replay, so I asked him if we could just watch it again. Did we lose a Jake?
Oh, I'm stunned into silence. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. It's a movie. You just don't get it like that. I mean, like this is I don't think I've ever seen the true 5-man chain into 5-man lash hold into 5-man pin. in all the Deadlock I've played. And for it to come out in a high stakes moment like on the night shift, we are truly blessed this week. Great to have BWC, and I mean, I'm really glad we got that interview piece from John in the break, because I think they're going to be really interested to see this matchup. Like, this has been the team they're maybe more interested to play. And talk about the unique style that John was mentioning, right? Their willingness to take big fights, to make risky plays, to kind of do what you don't expect them to. Felt like this game was the dream instance of that, and finding those kind of wombo combos. I definitely think if we see a Lash in the next game, there's going to be a lot of knockdowns. There's going to be some very heavy respect items. I think melee creeps are going to be hyper aware of avoiding that kind of a setup again.
Big shout out to Caleris and crew. All of their games are going 45 minutes plus, but here in NA, we are getting the job done short and sweet. Let's take a look at your bracket, as melee creeps will be awaiting the BWC Bird with Clock. Makes their way to the Challengers match again, something they haven't done for 5 weeks in a row. ZP, are you excited?
Yeah, I think it's about time to get BWC back into the NA finals match. It's always good to have a little bit of parity and not necessarily the same teams every week. It hasn't quite extended to the finals in a few months, but who knows? This could be the week. You never quite know until it happens. And, for melee creeps, you can only have the win streak for so long. Is this week going to be the week? We'll have to see.
I think so. If you're a Lash main, now is the time to tip the bucket for your Lash main. He just put on a hell of a performance. We'll find out if he could do it against the world's best team, or at least North America's after this.